At just 10 a.m., Donald Trump firmly declared that the war with Iran was the last and best chance to halt the regime threatening global security. As the U.S. military confirmed the deaths of 6 service members, intense combat operations continued across Iran to dismantle the dangerous terrorist network, jeopardizing America. Explosions and strikes rained down relentlessly, signaling a fierce and escalating conflict. The conflict expanded rapidly, with Israeli and American forces maintaining powerful assaults for the 3rd consecutive day. The Iranian Red Crescent reported devastating casualties, with over 550 lives lost. Retaliation struck swiftly as Iranian missiles targeted Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and even reached deep into Israel itself, igniting a broader Middle Eastern war zone. The world's largest oil and gas facilities in several Gulf nations were forced to shut down, sending shockwaves through the global economy as energy prices surged dramatically. Amid the chaos, tragic incidents arose, including the shooting down of 3 American jets by friendly fire over Kuwait. Meanwhile, the British government insisted its military involvement would remain strictly defensive. The Prime Minister openly expressed opposition to regime change via airstrikes, contrasting sharply with President Trump's more aggressive stance. In response to rising danger, nearly 300,000 British citizens living in the region began evacuating, seeking safety from the rising tide of conflict. Witnesses near the front lines described harrowing scenes. Hotels shook from nearby detonations, black smoke columns spun skyward, and drones were intercepted mid-air. As day 3 of the war closed, our reporters spread across key hotspots, from Dubai and Doha to Beirut, Cyprus, and the Iranian border, bringing first-hand accounts. Iranians voiced their hopes and fears about what might come next, while Londoners with ties to Iran shared their anxiety over severed communications with loved ones caught in the turmoil. Live from Tel Aviv, coverage intensified as Donald Trump reiterated that confronting Iran was essential to neutralizing a terrorist state threatening America's safety. Adding depth, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio revealed that Washington anticipated an Israeli strike on Iran, prompting a preemptive campaign to avoid direct retaliations on American soil. Both nations pressed ongoing military operations as devastation multiplied, with over 550 casualties confirmed by humanitarian sources. The conflict reached new heights of severity. Iran launched widespread retaliations throughout the Middle East, following the assassination of its supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. The U.S. and Israel struck deep within Iranian territory, including Tehran itself, triggering massive explosions and widespread destruction. Lebanon was unfortunately drawn into the fray, where Israeli strikes killed at least 52 people according to local health officials. Israel defended these actions as necessary responses to attacks from Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group. Iran's counterattacks targeted US allied states and bases across the region relentlessly. In Cyprus, heightened tensions were underscored when 2 drones heading toward RAF Akrotiri were intercepted after a drone assault the previous night. The complex and deadly chessboard of power in the Middle East continued to unfold, with no clear end in sight. Tensions are escalating sharply across the Middle East, with key energy sites now under attack. Notably, a major oil refinery in Saudi Arabia and a significant gas plant in Qatar have both suffered strikes, causing global oil and gas prices to surge. The conflict's reach extends beyond infrastructure. Kuwait witnessed a grave incident where 3 US F-15 fighter jets were mistakenly shot down by friendly fire. Fortunately, all 6 crew members ejected safely. Meanwhile, in Iran's Kurdistan province, 6 missiles hit the Sanandaj area, impacting densely populated neighborhoods, according to official Arabian media. American forces have showcased their military precision by filming the destruction of an Iranian missile launcher, emphasizing their methodical approach as they move down an extensive list of military targets. Satellite images reveal an Iranian naval vessel ablaze within the protective seawall of the port of Bandar Abbas, indicating sustained attacks on Iran's maritime capabilities. Yet, civilians are caught in the crossfire. Overnight in Tehran, the Gandhi hospital, serving many including children, was severely damaged and rendered inoperable. Israel's prime minister has justified strikes targeting what he calls tyrants in Tehran as efforts to safeguard civilian lives. Still, the harsh reality is that war's collateral damage defies simple explanations or soundbites. In Kuwait's skies, the downing of American warplanes by Kuwaiti forces highlights the fog and chaos of armed conflict. Back in Washington, former President Donald Trump has returned to the White House from Florida, viewing this war as a vital chance to confront what he describes as a sick and sinister regime. He laid out clear objectives: dismantle Iran's missile capabilities, which continue to be destroyed hourly; cripple their naval forces, with 10 Iranian ships already sunk; and prevent the world's leading sponsor of terror from acquiring nuclear weapons. However, the war is far from contained. The closure of Saudi Arabia's massive Ras Tanura oil refinery after an Iranian attack signals a broadening campaign against Arab Gulf states. Iran's strategy seems aimed at undermining American influence by pressuring these nations to force an end to the hostilities. Yet, targeting Gulf Arab countries like Dubai risks alienating them further, nudging these states closer to alliances with the U.S. and Israel. In Lebanon, hostilities have flared as Israel retaliated for missile fire from Hezbollah, Iran's Lebanese proxy. Hezbollah, once Iran's key instrument against Israel, suffered heavy blows during the Gaza conflict, with its leadership killed and missile supplies destroyed. Now, Israel threatens a fresh campaign in Lebanon to settle unresolved conflicts, even as funerals mourn civilians near Jerusalem killed by Iranian missiles. Despite Israel's formidable air defense, its capabilities are not limitless, as ammunition for interceptors dwindles. Iran appears to be testing Israel's resolve and resources through calibrated attacks, escalating tensions, and threatening further instability in a region already on edge. In Beersheba, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirmed the country's war objectives with resolute clarity. He warned of an unprecedented threat. If this regime, a terrorist entity unlike any the world has seen, obtains nuclear weapons and intercontinental ballistic missiles, it will endanger all humanity. Meanwhile, in Tehran, loyalists of the regime have returned to the streets, visibly demonstrating their support. Over the weekend, they packed the main square in Isfahan, underscoring the regime's enduring base. An internet blackout hampers clear insight into the Iranian people's true sentiments. But BBC Persian managed to connect with voices yearning for the regime's collapse. Everyday life in Iran reveals a complex picture. While bakeries and petrol stations remain busy, the streets are noticeably quieter, reflecting a tense caution. A prevailing fear lingers that the United States might negotiate a deal, leading to renewed oppression across the country. The Revolutionary Guard's persistent grip on power keeps people anxious. Amidst this unease, moments of hope flare up. With each explosion, outbursts of joyous cheers erupt from windows, embodying a bittersweet mix of fear and exhilaration. Security forces are ever present, stopping anyone who appears suspicious, an omnipresent reminder of the regime's control. Yet the people's resolve is unwavering. We are tired, very tired, one voices poignantly. The death of Khamenei is not enough. They all need to go. It has only been 3 days since the onset of this war, and the road ahead is undeniably long and fraught with uncertainty. The ensuing debate over the legality of America and Israel's military actions is intensifying, with experts predicting weeks of airstrikes and years of profound consequences to come. Jeremy Bowen's comprehensive report painted a vivid picture of today's unfolding events. In the latest devastating update, it was confirmed that 6 U.S. service personnel have lost their lives in action. Earlier, Donald Trump justified the strike against Iran as a final critical opportunity to dismantle the intolerable threats posed by what he described as a sick and sinister regime. On the ground outside the White House, Sarah Smith provided live coverage. Though Trump initially launched the attack while in sunny Florida, he swiftly returned to the snowy capital for his first televised address on the conflict. He spoke somberly, but did not take any questions from the press present. During the address, Trump awarded medals to American war heroes, linking their sacrifices to the courage required of today's military personnel, risking their lives anew. He highlighted that Iran already possessed missiles capable of striking Europe and US bases both at home and abroad. What's more, they were close to acquiring missiles that could reach American soil itself. All this rapid missile proliferation, Trump argued, was a shield to advance their nuclear weapons program. Notably, Trump has long criticized previous American wars abroad, particularly the Iraq invasion, vowing to avoid new foreign entanglements. And in contrast, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, himself an Iraq veteran, emphasized that this conflict is fundamentally different. No more stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmires, no democracy-building exercises, no politically correct wars, he asserted. We fight to win, and we do not back down. The recent military strike against Iran has sparked intense debate and confusion, revealing a complex web of conflicting narratives and political consequences. This is not a traditional regime change war, yet the regime has undeniably shifted, and many argue the world is better for it. However, the cost is already mounting. Although 3 US fighter jets were lost due to friendly fire in Kuwait, miraculously no American lives were lost in that incident as the pilots ejected safely. Conversely, 6 military personnel have died, and 18 more seriously wounded in related conflicts, a tragic toll that weighs heavily on public opinion. This loss of life has shaken even the most staunch supporters of former President Trump. Notably, ex-Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene shared images allegedly depicting damage to a school following the strike, expressing her disillusionment by stating, "I did not vote for this in elections or Congress. This is not what MAGA was supposed to be." Shame. Her sentiments reflect a broader unease within the Republican base, revealing cracks in what was once unwavering support. President Trump did not seek congressional approval before authorizing the attack, a move that Democrats have criticized for lacking justification. The rationale behind this operation seems to shift frequently. One minute it's about regime change. The next, it's about responding to an imminent threat that many officials acknowledge is unfounded. The Secretary of State addressed Congress to clarify the need for the strike, emphasizing goals such as destroying Iran's ballistic missile arsenal and preventing its reconstruction, alongside restricting Iran's potential nuclear ambitions. Although Iran remains years away from acquiring nuclear weapons, the U.S. aims to limit not just nuclear development, but also missile capabilities that could support a nuclear defense shield. Underlying these strategic objectives is a broader hope among many American leaders, a vision of an Iran no longer ruled by radical Shia clerics. Yet this idealistic aspiration does little to quell domestic opposition to the conflict, which spans across political lines. Both left-wing activists and right-wing commentators have voiced their dissent, a dissent likely to deepen as American casualties increase. Given the shifting justifications for war from US officials, ranging from fears of retaliation following Israeli attacks concerns over Iran's nuclear ambitions to regime change ambitions. The American public finds itself understandably bewildered. Mixed messages abound. President Trump's recent remarks omitted his earlier calls for the Iranian populace to overthrow their government. Meanwhile, figures like Senator Marco Rubio downplay regime change as an official goal, but acknowledge it would be a very welcome development. A central puzzle remains. Iran neither possesses nuclear weapons, nor is on the cusp of developing them. A fact underscored by US military actions against Iranian nuclear sites less than a year prior. So why was a strike deemed necessary now? Officials argue that Iran's ballistic missile capabilities pose a strategic threat, potentially serving as instruments to shield nuclear arsenals should Iran advance that path in the future. By targeting these conventional weapons systems, the U.S. aims to neutralize a key component of Iran's defense strategy. In sum, the situation embodies a complex interplay of shifting political narratives, military objectives, and domestic disapproval. It raises critical questions about the true aims of US foreign policy in the Middle East and the toll it takes on those who serve. As this conflict continues to unfold, clarity and transparency will be essential to maintaining public trust and ensuring that the objectives align with the costs incurred. Today brings news from several sources suggesting that the most intense phase of this conflict is still ahead. It's widely understood that Rear Fairfoot in Gloucestershire and the military base at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean will serve as launch points for American defensive strikes targeting Iranian missile sites. Meanwhile, in Cyprus, sirens blared at RAF Akrotiri, signaling a potential threat. This British base has already faced attacks, including a drone strike that damaged the runway. In response, security measures have been heightened with additional fighter jets deployed, and families stationed on the base have been advised to evacuate. Jessica Parker has just arrived in Larnaca, Cyprus, and she joins us now with the latest. Jessica, these must be tense moments for those on the base. Absolutely. The last 48 hours have been incredibly intense here in Cyprus. Earlier today, the Cypriot government announced that 2 drones had been intercepted, reportedly heading toward RAF Akrotiri. This follows a drone attack on Sunday night that caused limited damage but thankfully resulted in no casualties. As for the origins of that drone, unofficial reports suggest involvement by the Iranian-backed Hezbollah group in Lebanon, though this remains unconfirmed. UK officials have confirmed that the initial drone strike occurred before Prime Minister Rishi Sunak granted permission for US forces to use British bases for defensive actions aimed at Iranian missile sites. In the House of Commons, the Prime Minister emphasized that these Cypriot bases are not being used for US bombers. The Cypriot government has also been clear that it does not wish to be drawn into this broader conflict. For the people of Cyprus, these developments have sparked a cautious watchfulness, hoping the situation does not spiral further. The government has expressed strong opposition to regime change conducted from the air and supports Britain's decision to refrain from joining initial offensive strikes against Iran, viewing this as a matter of national interest. In response to criticism from former US President Donald Trump, who expressed frustration over Britain's delayed approval for US requests to use British military bases for defensive missile strikes, the Prime Minister elaborated on the careful approach taken. He stressed that decisions like these must be grounded in lawful authority, a lesson learned from past conflicts such as Iraq. He further noted the need for thoroughly considered plans before engaging in military action. These principles guided the UK's choice to abstain from offensive operations by the US and Israel, as well as a separate decision to permit defensive measures requested by the USS. This weekend, allies including Canada and Australia promptly backed the UK's restrained stance. emphasizing shared caution amid escalating tensions. Let's talk about the recent actions taken by the United States against the despotic regime in Iran. I've made it very clear. The Conservative Party stands firmly behind America in this necessary move against state-sponsored terror. After a decade of failed negotiations, the West found itself with no alternatives left. This isn't just about politics, it's about security and justice. By refusing to back the US, some have not only weakened our position but have humiliated Britain on the international stage, something that should deeply concern us all. We've witnessed before what happens when a president launches an illegal war without a clear plan for an endgame. The fear of repeating such instability looms large. Alongside this, we strongly condemn the reckless and illegal strike by the US and Israel on Iran amid ongoing nuclear talks. Respecting the international rules-based order is the best way to honor both the victims in Iran and the brave people living in the broader region. More importantly, we owe it to those in the Middle East to learn from the chaos that followed Iraq. Stability isn't just a buzzword, it's a vital necessity. This brings us to a pressing concern today. When will people start returning home, especially those in Doha and Dubai? The Prime Minister has confirmed that around 300,000 Britons are in the region, and the Foreign Office is working tirelessly to ensure safe and swift repatriation. Interestingly, a recent YouGov poll reveals a striking divide in public opinion here in Britain. A significant majority oppose America's recent actions and resist allowing the US to use UK air bases. This is happening in the midst of what may be the most public clash yet between our Prime Minister and President Trump. Turning to the front lines, Davis is reporting from Beirut. Barbara Plett, Usha is in Doha, and I'm standing by in northern Iraq. Let's begin with Davis in Lebanon, where a new and dangerous front is taking shape. Davis, what's the situation like on the ground in Beirut? Thanks. The Lebanese government and most citizens clearly did not want to be dragged into another destructive and divisive conflict with Israel. But Hezbollah changed the equation. As a key ally of Iran's regime, Hezbollah responded forcefully when Iran was attacked, launching missile strikes on Israel overnight. Israel's retaliation was swift and overwhelming, targeting Hezbollah positions not only in South Lebanon but also right in the heart of Beirut. Throughout the day, intermittent explosions shook the city, drones buzzed overhead, and tragically, around 52 people have lost their lives in these assaults. What's notable is that Israel has now decided it cannot rely on the Lebanese government to rein in Hezbollah. As a result, Israeli forces have declared their intent to continue targeting specific Hezbollah leaders and infrastructure until they deem the group effectively neutralized. Moreover, warnings have just been issued for more than 30 towns and villages across southern Lebanon, signaling an escalation. This sets a precarious stage for what's likely to become a broader and more intense conflict. We will continue to monitor developments closely. The ongoing Israeli military operation has forced evacuations, especially here in Erbil, where US troops are stationed, making it a prime target for Iranian proxy groups. Just last night, the night sky was lit up by flames after an attack on a key US base at Bill International Airport, visible just behind me. Thankfully, the base had likely been evacuated by then, given how obvious a target it was. Although air defense systems intercepted incoming drones and missiles, an ammunition depot was set ablaze. Today, the tension continued with a site still under threat. The U.S. consulate, located within a large complex here, endured 2 drone strikes. At one point, a loud bang echoed through the area as another drone was shot down. Fortunately, there have been no reports of casualties. A harrowing video circulating on social media shows a drone fragment crashing through the roof of a residential building, landing inside a family's apartment. By sheer luck, the family escaped unharmed. It was perhaps inevitable that when Israel and America launched their offensive against Iran on Saturday, neighboring countries would feel the repercussions, regardless of their stance on the conflict. Tonight, we witness the fallout radiating across the region. Notably, these attacks have not been claimed by Tehran.